so what are we talking about? Oh yeah, rivets. Rivets. Right, so I've got my little station set up. I'm going to turn you around so that you get a good view, and I'm going to pop you in the holder. How does that look? Okay, fab. So I've got a variety of tools and goodies and all sorts of riveting things to talk to you about, and I'll try and cover as many as possible. We'll see how far we get. So if you've ever been on retreat, you've probably heard my spiel about rivets, so I apologise, just stay for the company or something. So I've got with me a selection of rivets in all different colours, just to show you that they come in all different colours. I don't know if they come in rainbow. I think they don't come in the rainbow, the iridescent. I think you have to get Chicago screws for those, which we'll talk about Chicago screws later. So these are rivets. Now these are all from Emmeline, all of these. They only sell the double cap rivets. I have also got with me some single cap rivets just to show you the difference. Now Emmeline only sell double cap rivets because single cap rivets are, quite frankly, really ugly on the back. So this is a single cap rivet. From the right side, it looks nice, it's got the nice cap. And then on the other side, you've got the really ugly underside of the post. And if you can see in there, that shows the sort of the gumph of what happens once you squish a rivet, how it opens up inside. Okay, so a double cap rivet is exactly the same, except it's got a cap on the front and a cap covering that ugly underside part. Okay, and this is a single cap rivet in its components. So you get the cap like you would on double cap, exactly the same, but this is the post and there's no cap. So that's the top of the post and there's no cap on the underside of this post. Okay, so these are called single cap rivets. And I'll show you a double cap rivet and then you'll see the difference. So a single cap rivet has, double cap rivet has got a regular cap. Now you'll notice the shine on these is second to none and so much better than the single cap rivets. I think they were just cheap ones. Now if you're having trouble setting rivets and you haven't got Emmeline ones, try swapping to Emmeline ones and you might find that the majority of problems disappears. I'm not just saying that because she's my best friend. They're, you know, they're good quality. Okay, so that's the cap, and then this is the post of the rivet. And as you can see, it's let me hold it still so you can focus. It's got the post, but it's also got a cap on the underside of the post. Oh, am I too close? There we go. Okay, so whereas the single cap rivets didn't have that cap on, double cap rivets do. Okay, now this is a size medium. Oh, this is a size medium. I've also got small and large, and we'll talk about which size to use. Or is it going to focus? Maybe not. Okay, so that's a double cap rivet, and these are the ones that I tend to use the most. Now a single cap rivet is fine if you're inserting it through layers and you're never going to see the back of it. So like this on the foam stabilizer, the single cap rivet is absolutely fine. And if they're much cheaper, then you can go for it. But I don't find there's much of a difference in price. But a double cap rivet, you need a double cap rivet if you're going to see the back of it. So on a piece like this, where you're not going to see the back of it, it doesn't really matter. If you want to use a single cap rivet, that's fine. If you want to use double cap, that's fine as well. But if you're making a strap and you're going to see both sides of it, you need a nice side on both sides, really, don't you? Okay, sorry, I'm a bit blurry. It's there we go. Okay, so that's my little strap. We'll do that when we measure rivets. Okay, so that's the difference between single cap and double cap rivets. Now to choose which size rivet you need, right, I've got a medium here. Let me get small and large out as well, and I'll choose different colours so I don't get them confused. Now the posts for them all are around the same sort of diameter, so you don't need to worry too much about having different hole punches and things. Right, so my medium is in nickel. Let's get small in gunmetal. I like to have options. I find that's always best to have options. Okay, small one in gunmetal and a large in, oh, I don't know. Let's go for rose gold. Sorry, copper. Let's go for copper. Okay. A post and a rivet. And I'll try and show you the difference in these rivet sizes if it will focus. So the caps have all got the same hole diameter. Okay. So that's small, medium and large, but you can see that the cap size on the small is much smaller. Okay, so the small is an 8mm cap. The medium and the large are both 9mm caps. Now if you've got setting tools for a 9mm cap, you can use it on the 8mm, it's fine. You could just nestle it into place. Okay, so that's the caps for those. And let's have a look at the posts. Let's see how I can do these so you can see the difference in the length. Okay, so that's the small and the medium. And then that's the large. Oh, can we focus? There we go. Okay. So the post on the small is 6mm long. The post on the medium is 8mm long. And the post on the large is, let's have a look, 12mm long. Okay. So 12mm is actually half an inch for those who are in Imperial. Although if you're British, you'll probably find you're bilingual. You think in centimetres, millimetres and inches at the same time. Okay, so how you choose what length rivet you need, or what size rivet you need. You really need to have your finished piece of fabric to decide. So for example, this strap, let's assume that's my strap and it's been sewn because I wasn't really last minute. To be fair, I was sewing. So you would just measure the length of it against the post there. Okay. And if you can see on that post, there's a little notch in, if it will focus. There we go. Can you see there's a little notch in? You need to make sure that your fabric is under that notch quite comfortably, because that's where it will set to. Okay, so that small would be perfect for this strap. Now, if there's not much difference, it doesn't really matter. I always go slightly larger because you don't want the rivet to pop off. But if you are going to add a rivet to, I don't know, say 2 layers of this, you can see it's quite a bit thicker. You would just hold up the rivet that you're thinking of using without dropping it. And just compare that. And I think that would probably need a large. I know you can't see it. It's a bit hard to get it to focus on the background there. There you go. So that would probably be a large. Okay. And then maybe for a single layer, maybe a medium. Okay. Now if it's slightly bigger, if you whack it hard enough, it's going to fit. So I kind of just go with that mindset really of just give it a bit of a whack, a bit of a harder whack, it'll be fine. I don't say that in public. People might think that's not brilliant really. Right, so let me put the small rivets away and the large rivets. Is there any questions on rivet sizes or rivet anatomy that we could talk about before we go on to talk about the tools and how to set? Any questions on those? Okay, so let's make some space, shall we? Okay. No questions, great. Right, let's talk tools then. You will need a hole punch, and I've got here a hole punch that I use with a hammer, and I've also got a hole punch a manual one. Now these are often sold as belt hole punches or leather hole punches, and these may be sold as leather hole punches. They're really cheap. They're not, not particularly expensive. You'll notice that one end has got the hole, and I use a 2mm hole. 2.5 is fine, and the other end, it comes flat, but once you have whacked it a few times, it goes kind of like that. The diameter on the posts are 3mm, so I tend to use 2 or 2.5. That one's on 2, this one's on 2.5. It will fit fine. Hi Shirley, the good rivets are from Emmeline Bags, or they're Emmeline Bags branded. You can buy them at various places in the UK. So Hot is where I buy them from if I'm buying them in the UK. If I'm buying from Emmeline directly, they come from Canada. Just remember to factor in your customs and your tax and all of that. Okay, so holes. So we've got some hole punches there. Once you've punched a hole, you are going to want to add a bit of fray check to the hole. You can use this one or the one that looks like PVA glue. Either one is fine. But the last thing you want is that hole stretching and for the rivet to pop out. Okay, this just stops once you cut a hole in those fibres, it stops them sort of expanding and growing. Okay, that just sets that. It's a little bit like when you get a hole in your school tights and you add a dab of clear nail polish to stop it growing. That's what that's for. Okay, once you've cut your hole, then you will need a setter and an anvil. I've also got my press here. We'll talk about presses as well. So this is a setter. This is the one for the 9mm, and in one end it's got a dome. It's got a sort of I never know whether it's concave or convex. I think it's concave, isn't it? It's got a little bit of a dip, domey dip in there, and the other end is just, well, it started flat, but once you've whacked it a few times, it goes a bit less flat. Okay, and that is the setter. And you will also need an anvil. Now there's two different types. This one is one that is specifically for 9mm rivets. You can see it's quite well used. It comes with a dip on one side, and that's not a ridge, it's just rusty. And the other side is just completely flat, and you can use that if you haven't got a surface to work on. You can use that as a surface for the cutter. Okay, so you can just choose which side you use. The other option you can have is a universal one, and that's this one that I've got. Now, before you look at this, I have to add a disclaimer. I went to my local bag making group a while ago, and there was nowhere really appropriate for me to start hammering holes, and I forgot my chunky mat, and I didn't want to make holes everywhere. So I used this as an anvil to cut on, and so it's got a few holes in it. So the 6, 8 and 12 is the post length. Okay, the small is 6mm post and 8mm cap. The medium is 8mm post and 9mm cap. And the 12 is 12mm post, that's the large, and 9mm cap. Okay, so that 9mm rivets is referring to the cap size. Okay, so this one that is bash and battered, now that you know the truth, I shall reveal it to you. So it's got a large sort of dip, and usually that would be completely smooth, but obviously I've punched a few holes in it because I didn't want to make holes in the village hall floor, because it's like the cleanest village hall I've ever been to in the entire world. It's wonderful. So usually you just have a nice smooth dip. Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot that they added an extra size. And on the other side is a bit for setting, and I don't know what that is, snap or an eyelet or something. Don't use that. I don't use that. You can use that, but I don't use that. Okay. Right, so those are the anvils, and that is a setter. Now this set together costs something like £10 from Amazon. It's just called a rivet setter and rivet anvil. Okay, and to go with those you will need a hammer, and this is my hammer. It's really nice, really good. Okay, and also I've got my rivet press with the dies. We'll talk about rivet presses separately because they're a whole different kettle of fish. Let me just check my list of questions and check I haven't missed anything so far. Right, size of rivets. Okay, yeah, we've done that. Squished rivets. Now, if you find that your rivets are getting squished and you're using Emmeline rivets, then try to follow how I'm doing it. And if it's any different to what you're doing, try that instead. If it's exactly the same and they're still getting squished and you're using good quality rivets, then give me a shout afterwards. We'll try and troubleshoot, see what's going on. So you cannot set rivets if there is any give at all in your surface. So my work table is just a lump of worktop with some legs underneath. It's not solid at all. There is quite a bit of bounce in that. Once you tap on it, you can feel the bounce. I won't be able to set rivets on that on its own, which is why I've got this board. And this board comes with me to retreat, and it comes with me to well, if I go on retreat, obviously it doesn't come with me to the village hall, which is why I've got holes in that, but it should come with me to the village hall. It's just a bit chunky. So I'll show you this. And now this is a Jamie Oliver work chopping board that I pinched off my mum. I think she thought I was going to use it in the kitchen and she was being really generous, giving me a nice household gift. But no, apparently I use it to set rivets. So you can see that's a good chunky board, and that can go on any surface. It can go on my wibbly tabletop, and that's enough to dampen the bounce. If you're setting on a surface with any give or floor with any give, they will not set properly. They'll squash, they'll come apart afterwards. You need a really solid surface. If you haven't got something like this that you can use, you might find yourself on the windowsill or kneeling on a concrete floor, or or something similar to that. So find something that you can set on. Just a chunk of wood is fine. It's completely fine. So let's look at how we mark our rivets. So I've made a little mock-up of a strap here, and you can buy these acrylic templates for where to set your rivets. I'm not going to link to this one because the person who made this is no longer making them. She's no longer doing acrylic templates, but there's loads and loads of places online that you can get these. Just search for acrylic rivet templates or acrylic templates, and you'll be able to find someone. There's a few different bag groups that sell them as well, but they're really handy because if you're like me, you end up with wonky rivets. So a good quality template has got enough space, or the holes are big enough that you can actually hole punch through the hole. So you can lay it on. You don't even have to mark. You can literally just lay it on and hole punch through the hole. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to mark it because I pretend to be a good girl. I'm using an ink pen. Don't use this ink pen. It's terrible. Once you get heat on it or steam on it, it smudges. But I thought it'd be really easy to see for you. So there's my hole, and that's me filling in the whole hole. That's where your rivet's going to go. If you want to do two, you can obviously just lay that over the top and then just pop a little mark where you want to go. Templates are really good if you want to do things like double rivets, because you can mark exactly where the edge of the strap is. So you line it up on the template and add your marks, and they will be straight in theory. Okay, so I've marked where my hole is going to go. Now I'm going to show you how to hole punch with the hammer and the hole punch, and I'll also show you with the belt punch as well. Belt punch is way easier as long as you've got a bit of grip. If you haven't got any grip in your hands, then this one's going to be better. So once you've got your mark, add your hole punch directly over the mark, and you can see I'm holding that dead straight upwards. Okay, hold it at a very, very, very good 90 degrees. Imagine you were drilling into a, I don't know, plank of wood or something, and you didn't have it at the right angle. You wouldn't get a good straight cut. Okay, so hold it dead straight upwards, And then with your hammer, just give it a few sharp taps. Close your ears if you're listening. Okay, and that has punched a hole through my fabric. Okay, and you can see that the excess punching sort of come out of this little channel there. You can see that sometimes I've gotten a bit enthusiastic and made a few holes. You can see that sometimes maybe at retreat people have been whacking away while they're having a chat and we've gone quite deep, but that's okay. It shouldn't affect it too much. Okay, so I've made my hole here. Just make sure it's gone through to the other side. Okay. Ta-da! It's a nice clean hole. And next, add a dab of fray check. Now this is going to run because of the ink. If you're using a proper fabric marker, it shouldn't do. Okay, and I just add enough so that it coats the top, the bottom, the inside, all of those layers with a little dab of that fray check. Okay, I do not want this fabric to expand once I put my rivet in it, or once I get a bit of weight on it. You know, don't want that fabric to move. Now we can add our rivet. So I'll use a medium rivet, and it really doesn't matter whether you put it through from the bottom, add the post from the bottom, and then add the cap onto the top. I just think it's a little bit easier to set. Now, did you hear that click of when I added that cap? That's a sign of a really good quality rivet. Oh, and I don't think I can get that cap off to show you again. Now, this is not set. This is just fixed into place. No, I can't. Okay, well, I'll show you that again. But that click is a sign that that's a really good quality rivet. And it's just held into place. So if you want to, you can put all of your holes in, all of your rivets in, click them into place, and then set them all at once. You can do that, okay? So now you can see that that medium rivet is too long for this strap. So we'll see how well that sets. As for the belt hole punch, this is a silver line one. You can get it from Wilko or B&Q or, you know, somewhere online if you are shielding. And all you do, just take that cap off. Now this little wheel on this side has got numbers on it. So set it to whichever number you want. And I've got mine on number 2. And if somebody borrows this, make sure that it's back on the right number, okay? And just double check, when you first get it, double check that the hole punch does hit that metal bit there, okay? Okay, so we just pop that into our belt hole punch and squeeze. And there's a little click as that goes through. You'll feel it go. Okay. Right, so that has created just as clean cut as the manual hole punch. Okay, and again, add a little dab of fray check. Add enough of that it goes through all the layers. Right, let's have a rivet. Let's have a double cap rivet. Now listen out for the click on this when I add the second cap. Okay, so pop that through and listen out for this click. This is a sign of a good quality rivet. Okay, hope you heard that. So you can go ahead and just click all your rivets into place and then go and set them together. So are we all okay on cutting holes for our rivets? Now this hole punch, you can go right in the middle of a piece. So if you have got a big bag panel and you want to put a rivet right in the middle, then you're going to need one of these hole punches, okay? Right, there we go, and add a dab of fray check. If you are doing a rivet near the side, then you can use one of these belt punches, but you can only go in a certain distance. Okay, so that's fine for there. But if you're doing a big panel, you're not going to want to roll that panel to get your belt punch to the middle, because your layers are going to be off. As you can see, as I'm rolling that's moving where the fabric is over the foam. And if you roll your fabric to get it out under a belt punch, and then you punch it and then you let go, the layers are going to have moved. Okay, so if you're doing something in the middle of a panel, then a hammer one, definitely. If you're doing it near the edge, then a belt punch one is fine, completely fine. I think these are called rotating punches, maybe, or revolving punches, not sure. Now the same for setting a rivet, regarding whether you use the hammer or whether you use the press. Okay, so just be aware of where you're going to want to set rivets. What do we need? Another cap. There we go. You could tell I've got loads of rivets, so I'm just, yeah, use them away. Use them away. Doesn't matter. Okay, click coming again. And one more time. Another click. Okay. So this medium is obviously a much better fit for this piece of fabric that's been interfaced and stabilizer. We talked about interfacing and stabilizer last week, if you want to go back and catch up on that. Right, so let's set these using the hammer and the setter and anvil, and then we'll go on to talk about presses, but we got these ready. Okay, so the dip on the anvil, this is where you want to nestle that bottom cap into. Okay, so nestle that cap into that anvil, and you'll be able to feel that it's in the right place. Okay, and lean that. Again, you need to be setting these on a solid surface. They will not set on a surface that's got any wibble or any give. Okay, so I can feel that that is firmly in the dip of my anvil. And now I'm going to get my setter, and remember there's a dip in one end of it. That's the dip that's going to go on top of the second cap. Okay, I don't know if you can see there. Okay, so that dip is going on top, and again you need to hold this at a dead straight angle. And it possibly doesn't look like it on the camera, but it is. Okay, and then you're just going to give it a couple of whacks. Ready? Okay, now you don't feel anything give with that, so the only way to test it is just to see if you can get your fingernail underneath there. And yeah, I can. There's quite a bit of give in that, so I'll give it a few more whacks. No harm in adding a few extra. Now if you're doing this on faux leather and you end up with little indentations around the rivet from your setter, don't worry, they will fade. Okay, so that's fine. That's really secure. I can feel there's no give in that at all. Okay, if you've got it directly in the dip of your anvil, you shouldn't have any strange wibbles. If you were slightly wonky with your setter, you might have a bit of a crease. I don't know if you can see that bit of a whack there. Wasn't quite straight up. Okay, that's the only downside to using a hammer with a setter and an anvil. You do have to be very, very exact on how you're holding it to set them. Okay. Well, actually, I won't set this one on this one because we'll look at the presses. We'll do this one. Now, this rivet we thought was probably going to be too big, so we'll see whether that sets okay. Doubt it. See, I'm a bit wonky here. Doreen, don't worry, we talked about that right at the start. once the video is finished, go back right to the start and we'll talk about how to choose which rivet. Now that was actually the medium rivet and we thought that was going to be too big, but with a bit of extra force, that's set quite nicely. And I can't get my fingernail underneath that at all. I can't wibble it. There's no giving that, that's firm. Okay, so actually, whereas a small rivet would be better on this strap, medium, if you've got it, is fine. Don't let Janelle hear me say that. Okay, so that is how to set rivets using the manual setter and anvil. Okay, just give it a few practices, give it a few whacks, you know, don't be afraid. Give it some welly. Right, so let's move on to talking about rivet press. And I've got a couple of bits to set there, so that's fine. We can always come back to talk about these if you've got any questions. Just give me a shout. Okay, now I have got a blue press, and this is from, oh, where is this from? Can't remember where this is from. Sure Lizzie or Lynn will know, but I bought the blue press because it's blue and I thought the green ones looked a bit ugly. But actually there are a few differences with the rivet press. This is really beautifully coated, really well coated, very good quality. Some of the cheaper ones that you might be able to buy on Wish, for example, we've seen various ones at the retreat that have got maybe sharp edges or sharp pins coming out. No, we'll talk about the trimming shop, but this one's not from them. This is from, oh, He-Bar online, Green Grizzly, that's it. So I bought this one, but some of the cheap ones, beware, because there's a little spring in there, or a little pin at the top of the spring. And we've seen so many that are sharp, and bits that are flaking off, and just really, really poor quality. If you get one that's got bits flaking off, give it a sand down if you can with a metal file, or contact the seller, because that's not safe to use. It's really, you know, you don't want a metal splinter in your finger as you're using it. Now these come with a set of dies. You can choose which dies you want. You can buy either just the press and then get the dies separately, or you can get it as a set. You do need to be aware though that the dies for the green machine will not fit in the blue, and the ones for the blue will not fit in the green. Okay, and that's not just a you know, made up thing. We've tested it with different presses at the retreat and things. Lynn has got a green one from the trimming shop, and so we've been able to compare them quite well. The dies that you get are, you'll get a bottom die, and this is how mine are. So that is the end that goes into the machine, and on the top it's got a dip. Okay, so that's for the rivet to sit into. So that's the bottom, and then the top screws into place. See if I can get this to focus on that. No? Yes? No? You might have to trust me on this one. It's got a screw at the top, and then the underside has got a dip, same as the anvil and setter for the others, okay? And they fit into the machine, or they fit into the press like this. Now that one just lifts in and out, that's the bottom one. So make sure that you've got the dip on the top, and you do get like a little screwdriver-y thing to secure that into place, and the one on the top screws into place. Okay, so make sure that that's screwed in tightly. We did find at retreat, the more people were using these presses, because we bring them so that people don't have to, the more people using them, the looser that top screw does get. So make sure that that is securely fixed into place. Okay, so that's dies. Now you can buy dies for your machine to fit eyelets or snaps or different size rivets, etc. I've got eyelet die, but I never use it. The only die that I've got for mine and that I use is the 9mm rivet die. If you don't screw that up to tighten this washer, and this comes out very easily, there is a chance that you might lose this in the bottom of your sewing machine carry case, and think that you've lost it at retreat and have to buy a second set. So there's my first set, and there's a replacement set that I bought, and then I found the original one in my sewing machine case when I went to my sewing day with the ladies in Aberdeen. So top tip there. Now the good quality presses will come, and they've got a nice easy handle. Some of them do come without the handle attached. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad quality one, as long as you can easily fit that handle. And it might be that a little bit of the paint underneath flakes off just where it's pressing this down. As long as that's smooth, that's fine. Okay, it's when it starts to get a bit sharp, and you'll see that that presses down. It's got a nice smooth action. Some of the cheaper ones we've had coming through retreat, we see everything at retreat, but some of the cheaper ones, you've got to push that down before you can fix the handle on. And I tell you, that is almost impossible to fix that into place safely. So unfortunately, this is one of the places where you get what you pay for. Sometimes, mostly. I mean, you might find a bargain. If you do, brilliant. If you get a dangerous one and you can modify it, you know, you can wrap some duct tape around it, or you know, get some help fitting it, then that's fine, that works. Not everybody can spend a fortune, and I understand that. If you're on a budget, just shop carefully. Okay. So the other thing about presses is they come with a screw hole either side on the base, and this is if you want to fix it into place on your workbench or on a piece of wood, or you know, somewhere. You can fix that into place, because they can be a little bit unwieldy and a little bit heavy. Okay, a good quality cast iron one should be quite heavy. Try not to drop it, because it could smash if you drop it. Okay, so the main difference that we found between my blue and Lynn's, so this blue one is from Green Grizzly, and Lynn's green one from the trimming shop is the throat space. Now you can see the throat space on this is really quite tiny. Now Lynn's throat space is approximately up to there on mine, so it's almost double the throat space of the blue one. Now that's fine if you're only going to be setting rivets on the edge or on a strap, something like that. If you want to set a rivet further into the middle, you can't really roll the whole bulk into there to get it into place. So if that's a consideration for you, if you haven't got the strength to hammer, or you haven't got a surface to hammer, or you can't disturb your neighbours or your family and you need a press, then try to go for one which has got that longer throat space. Okay, as I said, I bought this because it looked pretty and it was a nice colour. So are we happy on rivet presses? Oh, let me just tell you as well, we had a question from someone about cutting holes for hardware on your rivet press. Now there are two suppliers in the United States, I believe they are, Gold Star and Doodlebug, who sell the dies that you can put into your rivet press to cut holes for hardware. There's nowhere in the UK that we can find them. The other alternative is to get two small sheets of metal, or very similar, probably metal is the only option, and pop a sheet of metal in the bottom there, and see how you can attach a sheet of metal to the top there. I don't know, maybe just sandwich it. And you know the leather hole punches, I've got a set, let me just grab them. But you can use these leather hole punches. There's the one, there we go. So like that. So say you want to punch a hole for your hardware and you want to do it on your press, then you'd have to have a sheet of metal on the bottom, pop your fabric in, pop the hole punch on top, add a sheet of metal, and then just press down smoothly and slowly, and that would hopefully cut your hole accurately. Or the green machine's got a 4-inch space, yeah, so that's practically double what mine is. Okay, but there are suppliers in the United States, Gold Star and Doodlebug, who sell specialist dies. I think they've been designed by Debbie Hunker, possibly, to fit into machines, if you're interested in that. Okay, let me just grab the Chicago screws for a sec. Oh, I lie. I put the Chicago screws in the de-stash pile, so we can't talk about those. But Chicago screws are very, very similar. So you would push the post through, and then on the other side you'd have a cap, but the cap has got a screw hole inside it, or the post has got a screw hole inside it, and you just push it through and you just tighten it using a screwdriver to fasten it. Very good, completely silent. I'm just addicted to rivets, so I can't really get on with Chicago screws because there isn't that element of peril. I like a bit of peril with the hammer, and will I pinch my finger and will I hammer myself? You know, I like that peril. You don't get that with a Chicago screw. Right, so let's set a rivet with a press. And the only consideration you need to have here is just to do it really smoothly. And you can set this on a surface that has some give. You don't need to do it on a solid surface like this. You can't set on a carpet. That's the only difference, but you're fine if you're doing it on a worktop. So let me adjust the camera angle so you can see a little bit lower down. So all you do is you pop your, do you remember we've got our piece of fabric with the cap attached, the rivet and the cap attached, and you just pop that in under your press. And I've nestled that into the bottom die. Can you remember it's got the dip in the bottom? So nestle that in, and you can feel that that's nicely nestled into place. Now mind your fingers, you can hold it. I sort of, as we've discussed, I quite like peril, so I kind of hold it usually until the top gets near. Okay, so that's just firmly held into place. It's not setting or anything, it's literally just lowered on. Okay, and you just press down and you can feel it give as you set that rivet. Let me see if I can back up a little bit so you can see. Right, okay, so so that's set, and again, just to check that that's fully set, I just use my nail just to confirm that it is, and it's not quite. So again, just push down on it. Use my body weight this time because, you know, got a little bit, and yeah, there's no give in there. That's fine. That's not moving. And as you can see, that is set really nicely. There's no divots or dinks or anything in that. That's just set really nicely. Okay, and I'll do it on the strap. Okay, so we just fit that into place. And if you use a 9mm die but you've got 8mm cap, just make sure that that's sort of in the center as much as you can. Okay, and so that's it, just held. That's not setting it yet. Just press down. Okay, doesn't take a lot of strength, but it does take a little bit of a oomph to get it down. Okay, now that hasn't set anywhere near as snugly as with the hammer. So do you remember they were both medium rivets, and we said that the small rivet would have been better, but with a hammer that is set really snugly, with the press not quite as snugly. So I think the moral of the story is if you're using a rivet that's too big, you're going to need a bit more force. I wonder if I can set it a bit more. No, that's as far as that's going to set. Okay, so moral of the story, use the right size rivet or hammer it until it fits. Okay, let's have a look at any questions. So I think we talked about how to use a rivet press, yep, and the difference between the presses and using it for hardware. Now, are there any questions on using the rivet press? Any questions at all? Have I answered all of your questions? Are you going to be riveting? If you're on a budget, then the best things to get is a manual hole punch, a setter, an anvil, and a hammer, because that set is probably going to come in less than 15, maybe 20 pounds. You know, it depends on price at the moment, but let's say that's less than 20 pounds plus a hammer, which you probably have already or you can get within that price. Whereas a press, you're looking at maybe £50 plus. You know, they can go up to £75 once you add in the dies, or if you get a discount or a kit. Oh, discount, that's a point. The trimming shop have got a 5% discount if you sign up to their newsletter. So if you sign up to their newsletter, you get a 5% discount, and you can get a discount off of the press, and they've got sets and you can contact them to make custom set. But if you're on a budget and you just want to give it a go, try the hammer set. Although I think once you start adding rivets and you see the finish and the quality, you might want to invest in a press, because you just be setting so many rivets. I love rivets because you can just solve so many problems. You can add them on the bottom of your bag as feet if you don't want to add feet but you want to add something, or if your bag is too thick to sew around the top edge, you can add them at the side seams, so you can sew in between the side seams and then add the rivets at the side seams. You can add them as decorative details, you can add them as reinforcement. Let me just talk about if you're adding it as reinforcement. So say you've got a piece of fabric and you've added a pocket onto it, and supposing it doesn't have foam stabilizer on the back. Didn't really prep for this, but I have got a piece. Oh, I have got a piece. Hang on, bear with. So say you've got a lining panel and you've got a pocket that you want to attach to the lining panel, and you know that that pocket is going to have a lot of action. Maybe you've made a nappy bag for your daughter Elvis, and you know that your husband doesn't really realise his strength and he's going to be thrusting things in and out of that pocket, and you want it to be strong. What you would do is you would add a rivet maybe to the edges, so top stitch it into place and then add a rivet in the top edges or in the middle, purely as decorative. Don't know, there's no judgment here. Add rivets wherever you like. If you've got a query, stick a rivet in it. Okay, so just again add your fray check. Now I'm going to use a medium rivet because those are the ones I've got, and I'm going to push the post through from the front this time. Okay, so that's my pocket and that's my lining panel. Now you need something to take up the slack on this. So what I usually do is add a couple of squares of foam stabilizer, just a few scraps like you would at the back of a magnetic snap. Pretend they're not got fabric on them, or cut them. There we go. As if by magic, no fabric. Okay, and add a hole to those. Oops, stuck in the table there. And just add those to the back of the rivet. Okay, that's going to give you the extra stability to hold that rivet in place, because you're putting a rivet there because something is going to happen to that pocket. You need that strength. So add that foam stabilizer to add the strength, not only to take up the slack on the back, but also to add the strength to that point. That's going to be a stress point. So that's why you've added a rivet, or it's for a decorative reason, but let's assume that you've added a rivet as a stress point, like you would on a pair of jeans, maybe on the back pocket. Add that stabilizer to add the extra stability, and then you can just set it as usual. And that sets really nicely. Okay, so let's pretend that I've stitched that into place. Can you see that's set really well through the foam? Okay, so if you want to add rivets as a decorative feature or as a stabilizing feature, as a little bit of an extra on a stress point, maybe on a pocket or on the edge of a bag, then you can do so. You can also just put them in, what was it? The Inner Circle bag by Diane Spencer Ogg from the Bag of the Month Club. She used rivets all the way around the gusset as a feature. They look really nice. You could just use them, and they're, you know, like jewellery. If you like a bag, you should show it you love it and add a bit of extra jewellery. So I hope you'll all be using rivets. If you've got any questions, please do ask them. If you want me to hold your hand while you're doing it, give me a shout and I'll be ready to answer any questions. But you can do it. You can definitely do it. Okay. Hopefully you've had all the help you need. Give us a shout if you need any help. Jan, personally, I think the blue is prettier, but the green is more functional. Just saying. Watch the video back, and if you've got any questions, give us a shout. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you again with some more questions. If you've got any questions, pop them in the group and we'll try and do a video. We'll try and just answer your questions. Thank you. Thank you for shopping with us. Thank you for being our customers. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you. Bye-bye.